So we are so thrilled to bring this next guest to the Rail Talk studio. Chef, restaurateur, native New Yorker, television star, and diehard racing fan, Bobby Flay. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much, guys. Glad to be here. Big fan of your show.
Oh, well, that means the world, and we're so glad to have you. Let's get right into the Derby. First of all, I'd love to hear your experience on Derby Day, and then your reaction to the actual race.
I was at the Oaks, and I love the Oaks. I'm a guy that people that know me in the horse business know that I like fillies. I race fillies. To me, they're the queens of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. And I breed a lot, so that obviously that's an important part to me. And anyway, so I went to the Oaks, and I have to say, Churchill Downs. They take a lot of heat sometimes, but I have to say they've come to the table. They have spent a fortune making that place world class. I want the food to be a little bit better, but that's always the case at racetracks. But it was an amazing experience. I have to say it was beautiful. It was really well run. It was nice to be there. On Saturday morning, on Derby morning, traditionally for about the last 9 years, I cook a breakfast I have a relationship with Sentient Jet. And so I cook a breakfast for some of their top customers, about 120 people. So I'm up at 5:00 in the morning rolling out biscuits, for real.
Wow.
So my Friday night in Louisville is short. I saw Shabuzi at the FanDuel party. He was great. And then around 12:30, I was in bed. I was up at 5 rolling biscuits, cooked for about 120 people. And then I go home. I get on a plane and I go home and I make fried chicken and make my own biscuits for myself and some coleslaw, and we make some bourbon cocktails, and my friends sit around and we bet races, and we get to watch the NBC telecast, which I have to say was fantastic again this year. Great storytelling. There was so many great stories. Obviously lots of good stories about Sandman. I will tell you, I don't know if you guys know this, but I picked him. So I was in your camp.
Thank you.
And I was rooting for him. I mean, he got bet down, to the second favorite here's the good news. As a bettor, you're like, I wish the odds were better.
Right.
But as a fan of the sport and somebody who's always rooting for it, you have to believe that the social media aspect pushed his odds down, which just means people were paying attention. So that was a good thing. I wish he picked his feet up a little bit more, but he clearly didn't like the track. I mean, he just didn't make his move, but he'll live another day. He's a really good horse. You guys are lucky to have him, and he's beautiful to watch. He stands out in the crowd.
Yeah, he's so cool.
We call him the Joe Bianca of racehorses.
Of course.
I met him last year in Mark Cassie's barn in Saratoga, I was with a friend of mine, and I was like, "Here's what over $1 million looks like in a stall." He's a beautiful horse, and so
he's got a great personality too. A lot of the Tappets can be headstrong and a little bit on edge, but he's chill as can be, and I think that helps.
Yeah, I mean, he just listened, and everybody said it. Nobody had really run on a track like that before, so who knows what's going to happen,
right?
And when I saw, Jose did a good job taking care of him for sure. When I saw him tuck him in, I was like, okay, he knows he's not gonna pick his feet up the way we thought he was. But listen, you're, what are you, 4 weeks away from the Belmont?
Yeah, exactly.
That's a Tappet specialty, right?
Right, exactly.
So a good spot to be in. Yep.
And like you said, you live to fight another day, and that's a big important part of it. And I think trainers, owners, and jockeys especially are being more in tune with. If my horse doesn't have it this day for whatever reason, I'm just going to do the right thing and get him to move forward again. That's something that has kind of been born out of the ashes of a downturn in the industry. And I know that you were very vocal about that when we had a bad couple of weeks at Churchill and then at Saratoga. And you said, you know what, guys, I can't do this. So how did that come about?
It's really interesting. I actually said nothing.
Okay.
You can't find it anywhere. Right. I didn't say a word. I didn't want to talk about it, in any sort of public way because I'm not interested in hurting this business at all.
Sure.
But for me personally, I just kind of, a lot of people said, "Oh, he's out of it. He's not participating anymore." I'm in the breeding business. That doesn't happen. Like, it's all I did two things that happened. I sold my house in Saratoga, but that had nothing to do with that. So
Okay.
that sort of set off the tone. But also, for me, well, first of all, I like the breeding part of it more than the racing part anyway. That's just me. I just like the whole puzzle of it all. But it came to the point where it was like, you know what? I want to see how this business reacts. Just so you guys understand, I was on the board of directors. I was the only person on the board of directors of NYRA and Breeders' Cup at the same time. Okay. And this is a sport that I've been involved in since I was a kid. My grandfather took me to Saratoga. This is a story that lots of people have, of course, right? You go to Saratoga, you catch the bug, and all of a sudden it's part of you.
Yep.
And so I've been, a lot of people that don't really know me think that all of a sudden, once I started having a little success that I got involved. I've been paying attention to this, since before I dropped out of high school in 10th grade. I mean,
Right.
I used to go to the track. That's what we did. We used to have this rule that if we couldn't get on the subway because it was too crowded, we'd go to breakfast and then we'd go to Aqueduct.
That's awesome.
Terrific.
So, look, we had some really tough moments, and I thought to myself, well, I want to see how we do.
Right.
And I have to say, I feel like, I knock on whatever surface I can find. I feel like it's the safest it's ever been.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel good as somebody who participates, who is a fan, who wants to watch it. I think the industry is doing the best it can. Years ago, I went and testified in front of Congress about the fact that we needed federal oversight because the sport itself was not able to police itself. Mm-hmm. And I don't think it can. And so having oversight to me seems to have really helped in lots of ways. Nothing's perfect. Right. This is a very, very complicated thing for so many reasons, but I believe that it's going in the right direction.
Yeah, no, and that's why I'm curious about like what your future plans are for involvement in the business. You mentioned that you like the breeding more than the racing side, but I did used to see your silks on more horses than I do now. Have you mapped out your future in the sport? Would you get back more into the racing side, or are you happy with where you are?
I mean, I'm definitely racing horses. A lot of times, the horses that I bred that I want to keep a filly because the family's important to me, or I can't sell a colt for one reason or another, and I have it. So I actually have a colt named Crudo that just won a Keeneland a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, nice horse.
Yeah. He's a good horse. But we'll see. I also participate a lot in Europe. I have basically the same amount of broodmares here that I do over there, and I actually have a horse in that has an Oaks entry for the Epsom Oaks. Listen, there's lots of things I really like about this business. I really like the pageantry of it all. Like, have you guys been to Royal Ascot?
No, not live.
Okay, well, you're missing maybe the best racing experience in the world.
I was gonna say, John. So sorry to interrupt, but John was just saying earlier in the show that Nitrogen got an invite to Royal Ascot for winning the Edgewood, and John's not going. I'm like, John, can you give me that ticket?
Are you going to go? Is the horse going to go?
No, the horse isn't going. The horse is going to stay here and run in the New York series instead.
Okay. Listen, I understand both sides of it.
Yeah. But we do have horses in Europe also. I understand what you're saying as far as the country. Yeah.
Like, you guys were talking about winning and not winning the Derby and things like that. I always tell people, like, for me, just participating in big days like that is I'm fine. Yeah. And if my horse doesn't win, which most of the time the horse is not going to win, as we know, it's okay. Yeah. Because I got an amazing day out of it. I got to put on some nice clothes. We got to drink some nice cocktails. We got to socialize. We got to, and Royal Ascot. I mean, honestly, we don't have anything like it in the United States. We just don't. Right. It's, you have, from a hospitality standpoint, which obviously is important to me, you have some of the best chefs in England who take over these restaurants, and they do a spectacular job. It's very formal. If you're in the royal enclosure, it's top hat and tails, and there's all these rules for the ladies in terms of what they can wear and stuff like that. But so what? It's like one day, it's like My Fair Lady. You're like living the movie of your life.
Right.
And so I've run twice in the coronation over there. I had a horse both horses had won the Breeders' Cup juvenile turf race. More Than Real in 2010, and then in 2011 she ran there. Did not run well. It was fine. And then Pizza Bianca, won the Breeders' Cup, and then we took her over there. I mean, she didn't run that well either. It's hard to bring American horses to compete against them. They are good.
Right.
And it's a long trip, and on and on and on. The track is different. But as I said, to me, it's not even about winning. It's about participating.
Right. Yep. And you find that the experience overall, you prefer that to the Breeders' Cup week or anything here?
Let's put it this way, John. I like them both. Yeah. So, to me, that's like, I'm running this filly that I have is running in an Oaks trial, they call it, at York. I've never been to York. I did a bunch of research. It's a beautiful town. It has a lot to offer. Right. I'm going to go have a few great days there. And oh, by the way, I'm running in a graded stake that could possibly get my horse to the Epsom Oaks. To me, that's the kind of smoke I want.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely. I can see that. And as far as the breeding side goes, because I really enjoy the breeding side also, and the genetics and trying to match up the phenotype and the genotype. What do you look for when you're buying a broodmare, and what do you look for when you're matching her up with a stallion?
I only play at the top families in the world. That to me. Like I try not to play in the middle or below, because one of the things about this game is there's a lot of guesswork. Mm-hmm. And so in that part of the business, I mean, I run it like a business. In that part of the business, I try to take the guesswork out, meaning that I don't use unproven sires, right? Especially for these mares that have significant family lines. Mm-hmm. And so I'd rather spend more for something that I know works. Right. The stallion business and the breeding business is a really interesting thing, because a lot of people are willing to take shots in the breeding business with stallions that are unproven because they want to be right. Mm-hmm. That costs a lot of money. Yeah. And I've seen a lot of money go down the drain every single year, and it's going to happen forever. Yep. For me, I'd rather pay more knowing. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather pay for Curlin, or I'd rather pay for Tappet, or Into Mischief, Gun Runner. I mean, these are machine gun sires. They get results, and why they get results, no one knows. Some work and some don't. Doesn't matter how good they are on the racetrack, what their pedigree was, just doesn't matter. They either work or they don't work. Something I learned a long time ago. Right. And I match them up with some of the best families in the world. So, when I bring something to Saratoga or to Keeneland or wherever I'm selling as a yearling, it's got serious pedigree, no matter what. Actually, do you know that a horse that I bred that you own is running in a week?
I was going to actually break it on the show. Yeah, on the 15th.
Well, I know.
Great. Yeah. How do you know? Wait a second. That's supposed to be a secret.
America the Great.
America the Great. Yep. Our partner, Gary Barber, bought and named her.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So, because you campaigned America.
I did. America has been an amazing broodmare for me. I mean, I've sold, lots of really, really good foals out of her. I mean, she's just one after the, and I have another one. I have a colt by Gun Runner that's going to go to Saratoga. That, I mean, he looks like you want them to look. It's just one of those things. And so I love that part of it. I love it. I keep my mares and my foals at Stone Farm, Arthur Hancock's, the Hancock family. I mean, I just love being with that family. They're spectacular people. Right. The place is like Disney World for horses. I mean, you go there and it is just spectacular. It's 22 or 2,400 acres of just spectacular horse farm. And they're horses that live like horses. I mean, it is what it is. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. And Bob, you bring up a very good point, because, we talk about horsemanship. And there's a difference in my mind, between salesmanship and horsemanship. And you go to Stone Farm, you go to Airdrie, you go to farms like that are just old school good old fashioned, hard knock horses, and they're going to come and they're not going to be spit polished, and they may have some cuts on them or some bites, but they're horses, and they're laying bone down because they're playing and they're romping and they're doing all the right thing. And as a buyer, when I go to Stone Farm, when I go to their consignment, trainers have said to us, and we see it, these horses aren't perfect right now. They're not peaked right now. And you don't want them to be peaked in September when you're racing them, a year later or 9 months later. So there's a great philosophy behind going to a farm like that, knowing that the buyers are like salivating because they know that these horses still have some upside to them.
Well, I'll tell you something interesting. So I used to work with a gentleman named James Delahook, who is he passed away a few years ago, but he was a legendary bloodstock owner. All the families that Juddmonte have are based on things that he bought, 2 and 3 generations ago.
Wow.
And then I got to team up with him, I don't know, 10, 12, 14 years ago. And he taught me so much about horses, about, their demeanor and what's important to them and the land and all those kinds of things. And he said to me, at Stone Farm, it's like hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah.
They go out there and they have to hang out with each other and they become horses. And the one thing that about a place like Stone Farm is you're getting a pure horse.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's in this business, that's a leg up, so to speak, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you're getting something that's 100% pure.
Yep.
Yeah. I want to jump back to the Derby for a second because there's already been reports that Sovereignty might skip the Preakness. This is the new normal now. Every year, it's not going to be a guarantee that the Derby winner runs in the Preakness like it used to be. Being a lifelong racing fan like you are, I would surmise that you are a traditionalist and you would like to keep the Triple Crown the way it is. But you tell me, because there's marketing concerns as well. There's horse welfare concerns, and just obviously the quality of the fields. Where are you at on whether or not the Triple Crown should be elongated?
I love this. You're right. I am a traditionalist, but let me tell you what that means to me when it comes to horse racing. That means that I like to put a nice suit on because I respect the game. That's just me. Not everybody. A lot of my friends are like, I'm not putting a jacket on. I'm like, well, then you can't sit with me. I'll see you in the grandstand. But I like to make a day out of it. We haven't been able to do it since Belmont moved, but I would always have like a breakfast at my house on Belmont morning. I would take 20 or 30 people. I'd put everybody in cars. Nobody was allowed to drive. And we'd go to the track and drink, and then at the end of the track, we'd go to this steakhouse that we went to every single time as tradition. I like those kinds of traditions for sure. In the case of the Triple Crown, they need to change it because, and that's one of the things when I was on the board of the Breeders' Cup and the board of directors of NYRA. Yes, I think that tradition is important, but I also have progressive ideas to make things better.
Right.
I mean, you have to keep up with what's going on. I mean, the bottom line is, look, I wish trainers would run their horses more than they have been. It seems like it keeps getting. First, it was like, when I was a kid, these horses they'd run 30 times a year.
Yeah, right.
Before Lasix was in New York, and it was only in New Jersey. You remember that?
Yep.
And now it's then it was 3 weeks, then it was 4 weeks, now it's 6 weeks, now it's 2 months. All of a sudden, you're running 4 times a year.
Right.
Like I've been an athlete my whole life. Athletes need to be sharp.
Yeah.
I always feel like they need to be sharpened more than just having time off. Even though they're training, they're galloping, they're working, all those things. You got to get in the game.
Right.
And actually, your trainer, Mark Cassie, I mean, I could hear on your podcast a few weeks ago him saying that he likes to run horses more than some of the other trainers out there. And I get it.
Yep.
But the bottom line is 2 weeks just doesn't seem like 2025 right now. It just doesn't.
Right.
So why force the issue?
Yeah.
Right. Well, there's dates here and there. Everybody has to come to the table and do their thing. I know NYRA doesn't want to move Belmont for whatever reason.
Right.
To me, it should be first Saturday in May, first Saturday in June, first Saturday in July. Just figure it out.
Right.
The Triple Crown is the most important thing in our sport. The next most important thing is the Breeders' Cup. But when you look at the mainstream world, first of all, I don't know if you saw this, NBC had 17 million people watch it this week.
Right.
It was a huge day for them. Okay.
Yep.
The Breeders' Cup has, I don't know, 1 million. Okay, so it's an important race for us, but for the mainstream people, it's a long way back.
Right.
So forget about what else has to happen. Then the Jim Dandy, then the trap. It doesn't matter.
Right.
What really matters is the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes. And until that changes, that's what should be given the focus.
Right.
Yeah, I agree.
And if you can't run 4 weeks after the Derby, then sit it out.
Then shame on you.
No problem.
Right.
Well, yeah, and I come around on this because I used to think, well, if you elongate the Triple Crown and the horse wins all 3 races, it's not nearly as impressive an accomplishment because they didn't have to do the 3 races in the 5 weeks. But now that I've seen some of the fields, the piss poor fields at the Preakness, I now think it might actually be a bigger accomplishment because you will get 6-7 horses from the Derby to run back in the Preakness instead of like 2 or 3 now. You might actually have to be a better horse to do it in that case.
Well, also, then we used to have this thing. The sport used to have, the Visa $5 million bonus. You remember this?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
That obviously doesn't exist anymore. But I think that you could find a sponsorship if it made sense for horses where you didn't force the horses to kind of run. We don't ever want to do that.
Right.
But if you gave a breath to these horses, if it was 4 weeks between the Derby and the Preakness, Bill Mott would be like, yeah, we're running. As long as the horse, there'd be no question.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
You guys might run. Who knows?
Run.
4 weeks, everybody would line up again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. No,
Journalism would be there. They would all line up.
Yeah.
And that's what used to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now what happens is you have maybe the Kentucky Derby winner, maybe a couple of other horses, and then you have all new shooters.
Right. Exactly.
We're now pointing for the Preakness, not the Derby.
Yeah.
Right.
And we're sitting here as an industry and we're trying to regain a social license. So basically, if we can't get a sponsor to put up a couple $1 million bonus, okay. But you know what? Because I'm on the board also with the Breeders' Cup, we have $80 million that's sitting kind of, sitting on the ready. So if we did it internally and then eventually, it caught on, it would be an easier transition to be able to do it and it'd be good use of money. And I know people have also said, well, you can't change it because it's going to tarnish and blah, blah. You know what? Nobody's looking at the Baseball Hall of Fame and going, hey, stadiums move their fences in 100 feet. So maybe this home run leader shouldn't be in the hall. Nobody gives a crap anymore because it's basically what's best for the current situation.
Look, when we have a trip, the Preakness is a really important race. People think it's not as important as the other two, but in fact, it's just as important because obviously the Derby is the Derby. It's the most important race. Right. But if the Derby winner wins the Preakness, everybody's tied on for the next 3 weeks.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And then you have even if the horse doesn't win the Triple Crown,
right?
Everybody's paying attention.
Exactly. And which is good for the sport. And Bob, I'll tell you one other thing that I found was interesting. So we're in the process of negotiating, the stallion rights on Sandman. Okay. And people, the farms are giving us bonus, kicker schedules.
Yep.
If you win the Derby, it's X amount. If you win the Preakness, it's Y amount. However, they said to me, and not just one farm, but multiple farms have said to me, if you win the Belmont, that's great, but we're not putting it in the kicker because breeders don't want Belmont winners. Which blows my mind that's the case.
Wait, even at 1.25 miles?
Even at 1.25 miles, because you have to re-educate the entire breeding industry because they're so used to the 1.5 miles. So yeah, the past couple of years, like last year, this year, next year, it's going to be 1.25 miles, the same distance as the Kentucky Derby.
Right.
But the fact that the Belmont is on his resume is a negative to the horse as a stallion. That floors me.
I find it to be completely ridiculous.
Yeah,
that's just somebody who looked at stats 15 years ago and just went,
right.
I don't it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
Right.
First of all, the Belmont, they call it the test of champions, right? It's, it's stamina. We want to breed classic distance horses. That's
right.
That's
right.
real.
Yeah, that's honestly a question I have, for your breeding program because, you do have a lot of flash in the pan horses that now are whisked off to stud. Is that one of the things that you look for? Do you look for more hardiness, more distance capabilities? Is that something you factor in as opposed to a horse that maybe ran 3 or 4 times, was brilliant, and then couldn't keep it together?
Yeah, I do. But again, you don't know what's going to happen.
Right.
Nobody knew what the Tappet was going to be Tappet. Nobody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was $10,000.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
he was like this narrow, thin horse who won, I think, one grade 1 or something.
Right.
But then he turned into Tapit. So you don't really know what it is. And so,
Yeah.
so like, look, Joe, if the horse, I think Stormcat had like an abbreviated career. I think
Yeah, he did.
2-year-old winner or something, you know.
Yeah. And he won a greatest stake at the Meadowlands.
Right. As I said, I don't try to be right. So if Flightline comes off the track as, you know, the greatest thing we've ever seen, and you know, I'm like, if he becomes the greatest stallion we've ever seen,
Right.
I'll pay more.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel about it. I'm not going to.
But that's what I mean. That's the test case right there, because he was so brilliant, but you won't go to him in his first couple of years.
No.
Is that what you're saying?
I won't go to him, not because I don't think he can work. I don't know.
Right.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But like when I bring something into the ring, first of all, the dam side is going to be
bulletproof.
significant. Okay, that's for sure. But on the sire side, it's going to be, you know, it's going to be Curlin, it's going to be Uncle Mo, it's going to be Into Mischief, it's going to be Gun Runner, it's going to be Not This Time. You know, it's going to be all. Actually, you bought my Not This Time share too, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. Yeah, yep.
I think that was a good buy.
Yeah, you want it back?
No.
You're back at a 10x markup.
No, but you're right. And the breeding industry, we can sit here all day and talk about it. It's completely upside down, because people get so excited about these freshman sires, and even the calculus of how to figure out what you should stand a horse for. It's like, okay, well, if we get 250 paid matings, in the first year, and then 75 in the second year, and you go, wait a second, you're getting 250 the first year, and you're dropping off. Your projection is 75. That's completely backwards.
Yeah,
completely backwards.
Yeah, we were talking about the Belmont. Bobby, you mentioned you don't have the house at Saratoga anymore. Are you going to be up there? What's your plan for the Belmont?
I'm definitely going to be up there. I'm going to be there. That's basically it. I wasn't there last year, and I heard it was great. People told me that they just had a great. Listen, Saratoga is a special place to me.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my house was like I couldn't hide from anybody in Saratoga. My house was literally like, people were like on my lawn taking photos and stuff. It's just like, you know, I just want to be one of the, I just want to be one of the boys. But like sometimes, you know, it becomes a little difficult, especially if there's people you don't know rolling by your house all the time.
Right.
So anyway, just got like a little bit, whatever.
We get it. All right. I got two final questions. Number one is, how did Joe and I get invited to your Belmont party? That's
what I was angling for, John, and John just comes out now.
Well, when Belmont comes back to Belmont, I live in Tribeca. So when Belmont comes back to Belmont, you'll definitely be invited.
Okay.
100%.
All right. Do I have
to bring Joe? Next year? We don't know.
We don't know.
I don't think so.
All right. And my second question is, and this is more of an overarching food question, okay? If I'm trying to impress a potential investor client, and just a good food restaurant in Manhattan, what do you recommend?
You want a New York experience?
Yeah.
Minetta Tavern.
Okay.
You been there, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely.
I love that place. First of all, you can go late, you can go early. There's always a buzz. The bar's amazing. They have everything from like spectacular steaks and fish to amazing burgers. They make great cocktails, and it's a good scene. That's a New York restaurant.
Okay. All right. That's awesome. And I can use your name. I can drop your name to get a taste.
Totally. Joe Bianco.
Joe Bianco. There's a table next to the dumpster.
Yeah. So do you live in Brooklyn or Manhattan now?
I'm in Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I was going to say, I spent a lot of time in Williamsburg. There's a lot of great restaurants in Williamsburg. You have Feeney Pizza, right? Is that yours?
No, it's not mine. I go there, but it's
okay.
I like Lindustry as well. Lindustry.
Yeah, Lindustry is awesome. A couple other places I really like in Williamsburg. Trafe, Francie, which is near Peter Luger's, is really awesome. We're pretty lucky.
Yeah. Have you been to Lucali?
No, not yet.
Oh, you got to go there.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. Well, Bobby, this has been so much fun. I really appreciate you taking the time. Appreciate you watching the show as well. You obviously do a great job in your regular life, and you do a great job on the breeding and racing side too. Appreciate the time, brother.
My pleasure. And I wish you guys luck with Sandman. He's a handsome colt, and we want to see him in the winner's circle some more.
Yeah, he's the man. We hope to see you up at Saratoga.
Best luck with your homebreds.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks.